children really are the great hope of reconciliation. If we can raise a generation of non-Indigenous children who know about these inequalities, who don't accept these inequalities.
A teaching tool for human rights tells a new story about the realities of First Nations children.
I've always thought of it as like permanent regalia, pride and in who you are, where you come from.
And making his mark, a Mi'kmaq artist goes skin deep to bring back tradition. Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Rick Harp. The final days of 2017 proved tragic for members of one Winnipeg family. According to police, that's when the body of 29-year-old Wendy Sinclair was discovered outside on a day when temperatures plunged to as low as -28. Last seen seeking treatment at a Winnipeg hospital, her body was found just 2 days later. Now the family says her death was preventable. APTN's Brittany Hobson brings us more.
The last time Eleanor Sinclair saw her daughter, Wendy Sinclair, was on Christmas Day. The 29-year-old mother of 4 was at her mother's house when she called paramedics. Eleanor says her daughter was hallucinating and wanted help. Wendy was transported to a Winnipeg hospital on the 25th. 2 days later, her family reported her missing. On the 28th, her body was found in a back lane.
I got so mad at the hospital. She was incoherent. She was clearly under the influence. She was hallucinating. Why didn't they keep an eye on her?
Wendy was struggling with a crystal meth addiction. Eleanor says her daughter was high when the paramedics showed up at their home. She says they suspected Wendy was overdosing. She called the hospital the following day and was told her daughter was treated and discharged. She called again on the 27th and was told her daughter left the hospital by herself. This is when the family reported her missing.
They said, oh, she was seen, but she left on her own. And I said, well, where is she? And she's like, this is verbatim. She's like, we don't keep tabs on people that leave the hospital.
In a statement to APTN, the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority said, she was seen in the emergency department and was in the process of receiving treatment. When staff returned to her treatment area to share results of some testing, Ms. Sinclair had taken her belongings and left the building. Staff searched the area for her, but were unable to locate her. Wendy's body was found next to an air vent near a downtown apartment building. The temperature was well below freezing. The family says they don't know what Wendy was doing in this area the night her body was found. According to Environment Canada, on December 28th, temperatures dropped to -28 degrees Celsius. Her family believes she might have been seeking shelter from the cold. The family says different protocols should be put in place when dealing with patients who are under the influence. They are meeting with the WRHA and the hospital to find out more about that night. Eleanor says Wendy will be remembered as a loving mother. Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Moving further west now, protesters are banned from four fish farms in British Columbia. Handed down in late 2017, the decision by the province's Supreme Court ruled in favor of 2 fish farm operators who sought to remove activists from their facilities. But as Laurie Hamelin explains, those activists seem unfazed by the injunction.
Melina Dawson has been occupying this fish farm off the coast of Vancouver Island since September. Now, her and other activists can't come here anymore because they've lost their legal battle against 2 BC fish farm owners. The province's highest court has granted Marine Harvest Canada and Cermak Canada injunctions at 4 different salmon farms in BC's coastal waters. This means the protesters must stay away or face being arrested. But Dawson says injunctions won't stop them.
We're going to continue being out in the water in our territory so we can see what these farms are doing and keep an eye on them regardless of the injunctions. Even the sites that have been granted injunctions, we can still be watching them. We just can't go like in a certain perimeter.
Although the judge's verdict is a victory for the fish farm industry, activists who are fighting the farms think they could be winning when it comes to gaining attention from BC's newly elected NDP government. And it's the provincial government that has the power to pull the fish farm licenses, which are up for renewal this summer. In the last few months, Premier John Horgan committed to protecting wild salmon at a meeting with First Nations. He appointed his top deputy to investigate the integrity of BC's Animal Health Centre after allegations of a conflict of interest were made by a federal scientist. And the province is now reviewing regulations covering fish processing plants after seeing this footage of bloody effluent. Chief Bob Chamberlain says the provincial government will be meeting with them this month.
We now have a date penciled in with the provincial government for January 30th. And then we'll get our initial official response from the provincial government. And from there, we're going to be advancing a government-to-government negotiations on this.
Laurie Hamelin, APTN National News, Vancouver.
So now that two of the province's biggest farms got what they wanted from the BC Supreme Court, an injunction ordering protesters to stay away, where do things go from here? Here with more on that question is reporter Laurie Hamelin. Now, Laurie, what are activists saying they'll do in light of this BC Supreme Court decision ordering them to stay away from these 4 fish farms?
Well, they don't know exactly what they're going to do, but they know that they're not specifically going to stay off the fish farms. There are 4 that have injunctions now against them, but there are many dozens of other fish farms out here. So they are going to continue to monitor, perhaps occupy. They don't know exactly what that will look like, what they will exactly be doing, but they will be out there.
And, you know, fish farms have been in operation in BC for some 3 decades now, and I know a lot of First Nations oppose them from the get-go, but things only seem to be really heating up now. Why is that?
Well, the BC government and the Canadian federal government have committed to UNDRIP. They've committed to reconciliation. They are promising that they will respect Aboriginal right and title, so that is definitely very big, very new. And social media. Social media, we have the reach of everybody nowadays. So when those protesters are out on the fish farms, they are recording, they're making sure they're getting pictures, they're making sure everybody sees exactly what's happening and what they're doing.
So where do you anticipate things potentially going from here?
Well, the pressure is on the BC government, and the fish farm licenses are up for renewal this summer. They have the province can revoke them, can renew them, and that is definitely what we're going to be looking at.
Laurie, thanks for this.
Thank you.
And speaking of social media, we'd like to hear what you have to say about this or any other story that appears on the broadcast. Here's how to contact us. Send an email to news@aptn.ca. You can like our APTN National News Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter @APTN News, or go to our website, aptnnews.ca. To Ontario now, where 129 First Nations currently own shares in Hydro One as of today. The province recently completed the sale of over 14 million shares from the Ontario power supplier to OFN Power Holdings, which acts on behalf of the group of First Nations. Costing just over $250 million, the purchase of these shares were financed through a 25-year loan. The move finalizes a deal first announced last summer.
It's very much a part of the government's efforts towards reconciliation, the partnership with First Nations, and it also is completely consistent with the government's efforts to broaden the ownership of Hydro One to provide better benefit to the people of Ontario.
All toy bears are special to someone, kids most of all. But in this next story, you'll hear about a bear that's proven to be a symbol of hope for many First Nations children. APTN's Annette Francis explains.
To have a
Meet Spirit Bear.
He is the only one of his type to have a degree in Canada.
He's also got his own Twitter feed and is the subject of a newly published book. This cuddly little bear has been the sidekick of child welfare advocate Cindy Blackstock for the past 10 years. The bear was gifted to her when hearings began at the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal here in Ottawa.
I really wanted something in that room that reminded all of us about what this case was actually about, which was children. And so I began bringing the bear to all the hearings.
According to Blackstock, over time, Spirit Bear began to garner attention from children and adults. He started getting trinkets and gifts, and eventually his own story started to unfold during the course of the hearings. So it just made sense to create a book entitled Spirit Bear and Children Make History.
Tell him a little bit about Spirit Bear, about where he's from, and what language he speaks in his First Nations language. And then we go on from that to talk about the case, how he came to witness it.
The book is geared for kids from grades 2 to 6, but Blackstock says since its release last month, it's been a hit.
The reaction has been extremely positive, not only from children and young people and their families who are reading this together about how children have and continue to make a difference on the TRC's calls to action, but from university students and university professors who look at this almost as a textbook. Because there's so few cases, legal cases, where children have not just been the subjects of the law, they've been participants in the law and participants in justice and reconciliation. And this tells a story of it in a way that children and adults can understand.
Blackstock says it's a great way to help educate.
You know, children really are the great hope of reconciliation. If we can raise a generation of non-Indigenous children who know about these inequalities, who don't accept these inequalities or rationalize these inequalities, that creates a better ground for those inequalities to end for First Nations kids and for them never to grow again for any other group of children.
Anyone interested in purchasing the book can email info@fncarengsociety.com. All proceeds will go to children's reconciliation projects. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Time for a quick break here on the newscast. When we return, how tattooing is taking a traditional turn on Canada's East Coast. But first, your latest weather.
8 degrees and rain in St. John's, 0 and cloudy in Halifax. Nain, snow and -8 in Ukjuak, -33 and some clouds. Saguenay, -14 in clouds, 0 in clouds in Gaspé. London, -15, mostly cloudy. Sault Ste. Marie, -21, also mostly cloudy. Big Trout Lake, partly cloudy, -26. Thunder Bay, sunny, -21. Churchill, -25. Gimli Harbor, -19 and sunny. Dauphin, partly cloudy, -16. Swift Current, -6, cloudy. North Battleford, cloudy and -8. Uranium City, -13 and cloudy. La Ronge, mostly cloudy, -15.
And welcome back. A Mi'kmaq artist in Newfoundland is reviving a largely forgotten tradition, and in the process helping others explore and express their identity. APTN's Justin Brake explains.
If you had asked me 2 years ago if I'd be tattooing today, I don't think so.
An artist, actor, filmmaker, and powwow dancer, Jerry Evans also breathes life into the revival of traditional Indigenous tattoos.
I mean, there's only two visual documents, visual documentations of our people's tradition of body tattooing.
Since the mid-1980s, Evans has been using art to speak to his ancestry. Like many in Newfoundland, the attempted assimilation of Mi'kmaq people and erasure of Mi'kmaq culture had a profound impact on him and his family.
There was so much that was lost. That, my artwork for me became a means to learn about who I was, who my family is, who our people are here in this place. I guess to a certain extent it still speaks to that, my artwork does.
Learning about our visual material culture, learning about tattooing helps to remember or helps to reconnect individuals back to their communities, homelands, back to their nations, and back to themselves.
The recent establishment of the Earthline Tattoo Collective in British Columbia presented Evans with a new opportunity.
I've always been interested to have my marks, the marks that I've been making in my artwork on my body, because, you know, I've always thought of it as like permanent regalia, you know, pride and in who you are and where you come from.
Following in the footsteps of friend and fellow Mi'kmaq artist Jordan Bennett, last summer Evans was selected as one of 6 Indigenous artists for the collective's tattoo training residency in Kelowna. Now he's inking friends in the basement of his home in St. John's, including people from Inuit, Mi'kmaq, and Métis communities. Today it's his friend, Stephen George, who already has a tattoo of his great-grandmother Teresa on his left arm, and on his right a tattoo of his great-grandfather, Tom George.
I wanted something to connect the 2 ancestors on either arm. And what Jerry's doing now is really, I'd call it Damgug, you know, which is Mi'kmaq for Newfoundland, land over the water.
Evans and George were both denied Indian status and membership under the Halibu Mi'kmaq Band, but they say status is not what defines them as Mi'kmaq people.
There was different things that, bureaucratic, administrative things that were going on that were quite beyond genealogy or any of the identity issues that make us who we are, you know, cultural things, a ceremonial thing. They can't be captured in a piece of paper you send to someone in government.
For Evans, the tattooing and its importance to him and others isn't something Canada can measure in defining Indigenous people.
It's part of not just me reclaiming something that was denied our family, but it's something that was denied here in this place for most of our people. And it's a way to reclaim our traditions, our power, you know, and I'm honored to have, you know, to be able to do this. You know, I'm doing this as with a purpose, you know, to help bring back our power.
Justin Brake, APTN National News, St. John's, Newfoundland.
Wow, some fine lines there. Time again for a quick break. When we come back, how the owner of a lodge overcame obstacles of every kind to realize his dream of cultural preservation. Taking us there, another weather outlook.
Grand Prairie, a cloudy -4, high level mostly cloudy, -13. Calgary, cloudy 3, Lethbridge, cloudy and 3. Port Hardy, rain 7, Quesnel, -5, mostly cloudy. Dease Lake, -7 and cloudy or mostly cloudy. Prince George, -5 and cloudy. Rock River, -12 and cloudy. Dawson City, -18 and cloudy. Ray Lakes, -17, mostly cloudy. Fort Liard, -15, mostly cloudy. Coville Lake, -17, mostly cloudy. Sax Harbor, the same, but -18. Baker Lake, sunny, -29. Arviat, -27 and sun. Blue Lake, -31 and sunny. Clyde River, -24 and partly cloudy.
And thanks for staying with us. For one Siksika man in Alberta, achieving his dream of a culturally based lodge has not been without its share of obstacles, both environmental and personal. But as APTN's Tamara Pimentel reports, Dion Redgun is not one to stand down from a challenge.
On a hill overlooking the Bow River Valley on Siksika Nation sits River Ranch Tourism Lodge, a lifelong dream of 56-year-old Dion Redgun. The lodge gives him a place to preserve his culture and share stories about the land River Ranch overlooks.
Without the languages, who are we? Without the lands, who are we? Without the stories, who are we? So I'm hoping that in my limited role that I could make a positive impact with the stories it will follow.
The lodge has been Red Gun's dream since the 1990s, and it's been a long struggle to get to this point. River Ranch was originally built on an island on the Bow River. Tourists flocked there to kayak and fish.
We had a solar-powered facility, lodge, cabins, rustic, right off the grid. Awesome place to be. And we were booked solid. From 2012 was our banner year. 2013, we were booked solid for 2013 and 2014. But unfortunately, nature had other plans for us.
What nature had in store was the devastating flood of 2013. That caused hundreds on Siksika to lose their homes and Red Gun to lose River Ranch. While dealing with the loss of his business, Red Gun was learning how to walk again. He suffered with severe arthritis, confining him to a wheelchair.
It was pretty dramatic and devastating because it's not easy dealing with a chronic condition and then overburdening family, and it was a challenge for family too, stressful.
All of this while focusing on finishing his business degree. He says the encouragement of his family helped him move on.
Looking at my grandchildren, they were all just young, some of them just starting to learn to walk, encouraged me to walk with them, so that really gave me strength.
Now, with the help of business partners, family, and Mount Royal University School of Business, River Ranch is rebuilt. The university heard of Red Gun's story and used his business as a class project to help with the business plan. The brand new lodge has only been up for a few months and has already had international visitors from Europe, Asia, and the U.S.
Every step I take is a step in a positive direction today. I don't waste my time. I don't waste my legs. Get up and do what I have to do to stay with the game, especially as an Indigenous person.
Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News, Siksika Nation.
Wow, great story. Well, that's it for tonight's program. Remember, you can always get news anytime, day or night, by going to our website, aptnnews.ca. I'm Rick Harp. We'll see you all again tomorrow. Take care.